Perfect. So today's class, we're going to be doing how to do a CMA. We're going to go over the full process. We're actually going to do one within the video so you guys can follow along step by step, or you can just watch what I'm doing. And then we're also going to review the Market Watch report and how to read that and what data we can get from it and how to utilize it for our clients. So the first hour will be about the CMA. I would say if you have questions, feel free to ask along the way, but I'm recording my screen. So make sure you just put up your hand. There's an option to do that, or just unmute yourself and say it out loud, because I can't check the chat while I'm recording the screen and trying to go step by step. It's just too much. So if you write in the chat, I won't respond to it till the very end, and that's fine too. You can do that. If it's a question you want me to answer at the end, just type it into the chat, okay? Everyone good with that so far?
Yep.
Perfect. So the CMA, the easiest way to do the CMA is through Stratus MLS. There's a CMA program within Stratus. So you're just going to log in and, obviously go to search properties. And if you go to our Google Drive, your resources folder that I've shared with you, there's actually a folder on doing a CMA as well in here, and it has some guidelines and stuff for you. Just the CMA folder right here that you can follow along with. So there's actually this guideline page. If you take a look at it, on the front side, it gives you a breakdown of kind of the average adjustment prices based on the price of the house, and then what you're adjusting for. Is it a bedroom, a basement, that sort of stuff. And these numbers are just average numbers based on what contractors and stuff would say for, a medium grade renovation. And then on the second page, you're going to see things you should always reference or calculate. So this is kind of your reminder of everything you need to be looking at when you're doing a CMA, right? So I'm going to open this up so we can reference that as well. Just make sure we're not missing any steps. And there's two different types of CMAs that we do, right? There's the CMA that you're going to complete for your buyer. So you're looking at, the market, what's happening in the current market, what the trends are, as well as, what's available currently, what's the competition for the home you're looking at, and, not necessarily just what the house is worth, but what should your buyer pay for the house? Because in different circumstances, different rules apply. So for example, if you're in a multiple offer situation, which, we were experiencing at the beginning of March, the fact that we can say, hey, the house is worth $500,000 is one thing. But if there's 8 offers, you might have to pay $550,000 for that house, right? And then we have to get into the conversation of what that means and the discussion of home appraisals and what if an appraiser values the home lower than you paid for it. And we'll get to that. We can talk about that at the end of this conversation. But that's one type of CMA. So that's a buyer CMA. And then you have your listing CMA when you're trying to price a home because you want to market it, you want to put it on MLS, and you want to sell it. The challenge with that is that, we come up with usually a range of value. It's very hard to say your home is worth $667,000 and that's what someone's going to pay for it. But we can say it's probably going to be between $650,000 and $670,000, right? We can give them that range. And then it's going to be dependent on what the market dictates, what's going on in the market that current week. How many other homes are you competing with? What do those homes look like in comparison to yours? Are they the same home in the same condition? Are they better? Are they worse? And we have to take all of those things into consideration, right? So we have to always remember that a CMA is, in reality, it's just a guideline for what a home should be worth based on the most recent sales in the area that are comparable to your property at its most basic level. And then we're also analyzing the market and the statistics to get a gauge on what do we expect to happen. If, for example, right now with COVID, we can look at the market and I can tell you what I think a house is worth, but for example, we've dropped our amount of showings on homes has dropped almost 70% from March to now. That's a huge decline in demand. So what does that mean for the value of your home, and how do you allow for that? So as agents, we need to understand all of these factors, and we need to know how to apply them in order to give our clients the proper advice so that we price the home properly and we sell the home, right? So now that we've kind of gone through all of that and had that conversation, let's start with how to do a CMA. and then we can come back and answer any questions you guys have around those sorts of topics. So we're going to go back to Treb in the info center, which is apparently still trying to log in. Okay. And when you're doing a CMA, there's a couple of things you want to start with. Okay. We don't just jump into pulling comparables. We got to do a little extra research first. The first thing we always want to do is go on to Geo Warehouse and make sure that the people who are selling the house own the house first and foremost, right? And I know that sounds like a really weird thing, but it is actually a truth in our business that some people will sell homes that they are not entitled to or try to. There's multiple fraud scams around that, and there's also scenarios where a husband or wife try to sell a home out from under the other spouse. Even though legally they can't, it doesn't mean they don't try, right? So our first step is to verify that and get the legal information required about the property. So does anyone have a particular property they want to do a CMA on that we can use this class for? If not, I'll just do my house. But
I have one.
Okay, what is it? What's the address, Evie?
It's 103 Gladstone Avenue. In
downtown,
Maple.
like Dufferin and DuPont area?
No, it's in Vaughan, in Maple.
Okay. So that's a great first example of giving the right information. So knowing the area, knowing the district, because there's, Gladstone, there's Gladstone Street in most towns, right? So just knowing that information, because sometimes you'll get a lead and they'll say, oh, I want a CMA. I want to know what my home is worth at 145 Dufferin Street. And then you do it for Toronto and it turns out that it's somewhere else. So make sure you're getting this information up front. So 103 Gladstone Avenue, and you said Vaughan, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So first thing I'm going to do is come right over here to the left-hand side. Some of you guys might have these links across the top of your page. If that's the case, that's okay. Wherever the links are, no big deal. You're just going to go to the Geo Warehouse link. So we're going to click on that right away. Sorry, and I do apologize, guys. The internet these days just takes a minute. So every time we have to open a new screen, it's going to have a bit of a lag. So just give it a sec. So on Geo Warehouse, when you're searching, you can just type the address in the top bar here. If you've never logged into Geo Warehouse before, you might get a little thing popping up saying you have to put in your name and your information and register. That's just because you're a new agent. We have free access to this. So just fill it out and keep going and you'll be able to get into it. One of the first things you got to make sure when you're doing a search is that over here where it says in Toronto, so we know that we're actually in York region. So make sure that you're selecting the appropriate region for the search as well, or it won't find the home and it'll tell you there's no matches. So I'm just going to hit search real quick. And the address is going to pop up over here. It's also going to show me on the map where it's located. So first thing I've already learned is that it's a corner property, right? Just from looking at the map. And then I can zoom in, I can see the size of the lot if I want to. I can also see that it's a detached home. So I can grab some info real quick just off of this. But what I want to do is come over here to where it says property report on the left. And I'm going to click on that, and that's going to give me the details of the property. So when I scroll down here, I'm going to see some information. Oh, sorry, scroll too much. So there's a picture of the house. And then I'm going to see some information right here. First thing is the owner's name. So Pasqualina and Francesco Imbrogno. So yep. I'm assuming, Evie, that's correct, seeing as it's the same last name.
It is.
But you want to just confirm that they own the house. Now you're also going to see, it's going to show you when they last bought it and what they paid for it. And you're going to see usually lot frontage and lot depth. I'm not sure why they don't have the depth here, but the frontage we now know is 45.54 feet across. And then your assessment value. So a lot of you guys, I get asked this question a lot. When it comes to the assessment value of a property, that's your MPAC, your municipal property assessment report. That is not your market value. It's not a CMA. and it has nothing to do with what's going on in the real estate market. So a lot of the time, the actual value of the home is going to be higher than that number, because that's what we call your replacement cost and what your taxes are based on, not what your actual home value is based on. So please don't get that confused. We do not use this number at all when it comes to a CMA. What we do also want to take a look at here is your legal description, okay? So when you are crafting your offer, if it's a buyer, please copy the listing description from GeoWarehouse. Do not copy the one on the MLS listing from the agent, all right? The reason for that being that a lot of the time agents will just do what we call cloning an old listing, where they just copy it and paste it into a new listing format and use it. And if they haven't verified the information or double checked it, and they've copied false information, and then you put that on your offer, your legal description is going to be inaccurate. The GeoWarehouse description is based on the land registry system that lawyers use. So this is the most accurate and the actual proper legal description of the property. So always use what you find here. And then if you keep scrolling down, you're going to see a picture of the property. You're going to see some information on it, what type of property it is, the PIN number if you need that, as well as, again, the owner's names, and so on. You're going to see, you can do the street view and all that sort of stuff. You can also get the lot measurements. So we can see here that the lot measurements are kind of fluctuate, right? But we also know, and that's because of the corner points and the fact that it's a corner lot. It's just a little, even though it's 45 frontage, it's actually slightly angled at the corner. So it's gonna be a bit irregular. So that's what we have to base that on. So this 25 plus this 14 is what equals that 45. But then at the back, you're gonna see it's 58, right? So you have to make note of that as well. And then if you come down to this section, again, you can see the property type. Now, people always ask about how we validate square footage for a property, right? There's three different ways we can do that. One is ask the owner, and if they give you the answer, you can choose to believe them, or you could ask them for proof such as builder plans or something like that. You could potentially have builder plans. You could potentially have the home measured and be creating floor plans for the property as part of your listing process. Or if you can also buy the report right here. So if I click to purchase, it'll give me options. And it's $5 for me to buy a residential floor area report. Okay. So if your client doesn't know and it's an older home or you can't find the information online, this is the best way to validate this information. I'm not going to buy it, but if I click on sample residential report, it's going to give you an idea of what that report's going to look like. And it is extremely simple. It's just basically one line, and it's just going to say the address, the property type, and then your total square footage area above grade, not including your basement. And that's it. So you'll be able to download that as a PDF, and then you'll have validated floor area report. The only reason that report would be wrong would be if someone had done renovations to a property and did an addition or something like that, and the MPAC Municipal Property Assessment Corporation had not reevaluated the property yet, because that's based on their evaluations. So you would have to, if you could tell that there was a big addition and it was relatively new, you might have to confirm with the seller or the listing agent what amount of square footage was added on in order to get the additional square footage information. But that's how you validate it. And then when you are doing a listing, when it asks you that your source for your square footage, you can say MPAC, and that's a valid source. Okay.
Can I ask where your MPAC? What did you press to get the MPAC report that you had earlier?
I clicked here. So on right here where it says total floor area, click to purchase.
Okay, got it.
I clicked on that.
Okay.
Yeah. And then someone else had a question too there.
Yeah, Jen, just have a question about the impacts assessment. How do they value that assessment? You had it, like you said, but if I didn't quite catch it.
Yeah. So I don't know the full process, obviously, but they basically look at your lot size. They look at the square footage of your house. They look at potential upgrades and renovations and condition of your house. And then they have each year, there's an evaluation percentage. It's a small number that comes out, and they multiply that by lot size and your square footage of your home, and it calculates a range of assessment value, and then they apply the condition of the home and things like that in order to generate your tax amount.
So this is different than what's used for banks
Yes.
to use for an appraiser.
Yeah. An appraiser uses comparable sales.
Okay.
However, appraisers aren't all real estate agents, so they don't all have access to MLS. So they don't actually have access to all the data that we have access to, believe it or not. So they're basing it off of what they can find or knowing agents that they can get information from. And then we're doing it based on market sales and recent sales and market value. And appraisers or MPAC is doing it based on numbers. So lot size, square footage, and then they have a formula, a ratio, kind of like land transfer tax, that they apply to the information in order to generate the tax amount for that year.
Okay.
Yeah. So 3 very different things, 3 very different prices usually. Hopefully the appraiser is close to market value, but sometimes they're way off. Now, if that does happen and you have an appraiser that comes in and says, you know, maybe you paid like $600 for a house and they come in and they're like, well, it's only worth $550. You can actually submit comparable properties to the lender to justify your price, and the lenders will look at them and take them into consideration and potentially make an adjustment. So just because an appraisal comes in low doesn't mean there aren't steps we can't take to try and help our client and make sure that they can still get their financing, right? Because that's the biggest concern with appraisal usually is the financing side of things. Okay?
Jen, I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay, so now because of what this is reflecting with respect to the price, if he's had a lot of work done to the property,
Yep.
should he be resubmitting or having somebody from MPAC come out and assess it so that they increase the property
No.
of it? No?
The answer is no.
Because he's going to pay more in taxes.
I don't want to say this because it's going to be recorded, but technically, as owners of homes and that, we're not rushing out to get MPAC to reassess anything, because the minute they reassess our property, our taxes are going up. Right?
That's right. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we wouldn't go, like say you did a big reno on your house, you wouldn't call MPAC and go, hey, the reno's done, come check it out. It might take them 3-4 years or whatever to get there. It might be 1 year, it might be 6 months. So you would let them do it on their schedule, on their terms. Now, the other thing is you can appeal an MPAC number though. So say they come out and they do an appraisal of some sort, they check it out and they say, hey, we've assessed you at $1.1 million. You can actually appeal that assessment if you want to and go through a process of trying to get that number lowered. But it's a process, right? You got to submit paperwork and go through that whole thing. So we're not going to get into that, but that is an option if that ever was to happen.
Okay, so now if he's completed the basement, he has a separate entrance, he excavated stairs going down to it from the back, so that they have a separate entrance and it's closed off from his main house.
Mm-hmm.
He has yet to rent it out. He's just using it for the grandchildren. But I don't know how to assess that portion of it.
Well, you're not assessing it at all. We're just, when we do the CMA, we're looking for homes with similar features. And if we can't find one, then we're adding the value of those features to our comparable once we've found what we would deem to be market value without those features.
Got it.
Yeah. Okay. So if you keep scrolling down, guys, you can kind of see the history of the property. They bought it from the builder. Well, the builder bought it, and then they bought it from the builder. So it's only had 2 owners, which is pretty cool. And then if you keep scrolling down and you're looking for a survey of any sort, if they have them on file, they'll show up right here. So you can also get that information here. Now, a lot of the time...
What's the address?
What?
What's the address of the property? Gladstone?
It's 103 Gladstone Avenue in Vaughan that we're looking at.
You have the postal code?
I don't know the postal code right now.
The postal code is L6A.
L6A.
2 P as in Peter 1.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. So basically, under the survey section, if we go back to that, if there was a survey, you'd be able to find it here. So they only have a plan of subdivision, which will kind of show the whole subdivision with a bit of a highlighted square around the property, the specific property, but it's not going to show you anything more than just the layout of the area. So that won't really substitute a survey, but sometimes you'll get something here that you can use as a survey if your client doesn't have one. So you can always check this section as well. And then if you keep going down, guys, then it's just the demographics of the area, which is interesting, and you can definitely use it to take a look at, you know, the age of the home, and then, you know, what type of properties are in the area. This is a pretty cool stat. The neighborhood is 100% owned properties, 0% rented. Now that's probably not 100% accurate, but we know it's a high ownership area, which is great for market values. There's 182 homes in the subdivision. You can get all the stats that you kind of want: dominant language, immigration status, and all that sort of stuff. So that's Geo Warehouse. We're always going to check Geo first and get as much information as we can. And what we can do, because, you know, obviously we don't need to print everything and have it on paper. You can if you want, but you can also just click this PDF button at the top, and it will create a PDF report that you can just save onto your computer or into your file for this property, so you have this information on hand. And then one of the other interesting things with Geo Warehouse before we move on is this comparables button right here. So sometimes homes sell privately, right? They don't all sell on MLS, and we can't see the sale price or the information. So what we can also do, because everything goes through land registries, we can click on comparables, and we'll be able to do a quick CMA of, let's say, what's sold in the last, let's say, 3 months. And I want freehold properties, and I can select the radius as close to the subject property as possible, or I could even get more detailed and just draw, like go in here and go, I just want to know what's in these pockets here, what's sold in this area around my subject property. Obviously you're going to spread that out a bit, but just as an example. And then you can come down here, you can do from lot size, you could adjust the price. Like if I know I'm not going to go over 1.5 million, I don't need those to get populated, so I can narrow that down. And when I'm done, I can hit find comparables, and if anything has sold, it's going to pop up and it's going to show me right here. So there's one that's being shown right now, 2 Dunblane Avenue, and it should actually show you on the map where that is as well. So it's right here. You can take a look at that property report, but you can also see that it was sold for 1.265. Sold,
Jen, could you tell where did you get the circle or rectangle? What did you click on?
yeah, I drew it. So hold on one sec. Let me go back. So see right here, you can search by radius, which just gives you the circle, which is the automatic search. And you can make that as little or as small as you want, depending on how far you want your search to reach. Or I can click on polygon, and then that will allow me to actually draw the parameters that I want it to search.
So Jen, these are the houses that show up on here are only houses that are not on MLS that have been
No,
sold?
it's all sales. So you might already have some of the comps, but you can go through it. So say you can only find 2 really good comparables for a property on MLS. You can come and check here to see if anything's sold privately that might also be a good fit or a good match, just by checking Geo Warehouse. Because you can see, you know, when did it sell, you can see what it sold for, you can see on the map where it's located, and then if you go back to the property report, you can see the lot size of that property and things like that, so you can kind of gauge, is this similar or is it not similar? And then you could also search the address in Stratus to see previous listings and get an idea of the property that way to see if it's a good comparable. So this isn't what you need to do right off the bat. I'm just showing it to you as an example of if you were having trouble finding enough comparables, this is a way you could find those ones that weren't listed on MLS, just to help out, right?
Okay.
So once you've got that done, then we're kind of done with Geo Warehouse. So what we're going to do next is I'm just going to close this. Oh, I think I just closed all my windows. Hold on. Hold on. I got to log back in. Sorry, that's my bad, guys. I just closed everything. I'm going to move you down here. So the next step is we're going to just go into MPAC really quickly, and we're just going to get some extra information about the property. So I'm just going to log back into Stratus. Sorry, guys.
Jen, just have a quick question. Like when
Yeah.
we're doing a CMA for, let's say, a buyer,
Yep.
right, and showing them what they could possibly make an offer at,
Yep.
and then we make an offer, and then the seller comes back with another offer. Can we ask the seller, hey, can you offer us some comparables why you gave this offer?
Yeah, absolutely. Like if you're in a situation where you submit an offer and then the seller comes back and you guys are way out of whack on pricing, you could absolutely say, you know, I'm just having trouble finding the comps to justify the price. Can you send me what you guys used? Because maybe I'm missing something. And most agents, as long as you approach it in the right way so that you're not insulting them, most agents, a lot of agents will give you their comps because they're going to use them to try and justify to you why you should pay that price, right?
Yeah.
So you can definitely ask that.
Some agents do that?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah. I've asked that many times and most agents have shared it with me. I've had the occasional ones that won't, for whatever reason they decide, but usually they will. Yeah. Cause I know, like, if I'm a listing agent and someone asks me that question, I'll absolutely send them my comparables and say, here's what we're looking at, here's why, and here's the market value, and this is why we're not willing to take this number and use it in my own interest, in my best interest, right? But yeah, most will, not all. But so the next step, guys, is then we're going to go to MPAC, and that's just over here. It's under public records in Stratus. It's not called MPAC. You can go by either one. I like the mobile one. I don't know why. I just always feel like it works better, but you can click on either link. They take you to the same place. And all we're really doing with MPAC is we're going to put in the address. And that's going to be, so if I click here, you see that it kind of populates all the different Gladstones in Ontario. So I'm going to pick Vaughan because that's the one we're looking at. And that's going to pull up the assessment report. And it's also going to show me the map. So this is really more what I care about. First of all, this picture was taken in August of 2019, which is kind of cool. But if I scroll down here, I'm going to get more details about the property. So I know that I already know it's single family detached. I already have the legal description.
Then,
yeah.
Where did you get MPAC? Where did you click on MPAC?
So I came over here, see on the left-hand side where it says public records or public records mobile?
Yeah.
That's what I clicked on.
Okay, public
That
records.
takes you to MPAC, okay?
Okay.
And then I searched by the address.
Is this legal description the same one that was on the Geo Warehouse?
Should be, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it should
but
be.
But when we're copying the legal description, should we copy from here or Geo Warehouse?
I always copy it from Geo Warehouse. And the reason for that being that Geo Warehouse is the land registry system, whereas this is updated by people, and sometimes there's human error, right? Like the land registry, I always feel it's the more thorough spot to go. But you're also going to see the year the house was built, the number of stories, again, the frontage of the property, when the last sale was, the history of the taxes. And then if you come up to this section, see where it says PDR right here, or actually, sorry, enhanced right here. If I click on this, I get this information. It's got 4 bedrooms. It's got 2 bathrooms. It's got 1 half bath. It's got fireplace, a garage, 2-car attached garage, no pool. And I can start to get some information on the property. So this is extremely valuable if I can't find a previous listing of the home because it's never been on the market before. And I need to know some of the property details. And of course, you got to verify these with the owner if you are listing the house. But it's a great way to quickly grab some extra details for your CMA on the home, right? Especially if you're just doing like a neighborhood analysis for somebody and you're just doing a broad overview of what the home might be worth, then you could come here and just go, okay, it's a 4-bed, 2-bath, detached, 2-car attached garage. I can now search that whole area and just pull those most recent sales, right? So it makes it nice and quick. This is all we really use MPAC for. It's just to get this extra information. And again, this information here. It's a quick little visit. We don't even really need to print this or save it, although you can if you want to. If you click this PDR, it'll create a report for you. And again, you can save that as a PDF as part of your files. But you don't need to because it's always in the system, okay? So once we've checked MPAC and we've checked Geo Warehouse, we have a pretty good idea of what the home is we're dealing with, right? We know what it looks like visually. We know kind of the look of the area. We know the number of bedrooms. We know the rough lot size. Now we want to kind of start to dig in and go, okay, let's find our comparable properties and figure out what is this house actually worth, right? So to do that, we just go right back to Stratus MLS, and there's two different ways you can kind of approach this. It doesn't matter which one you want to take. They're both the same approach. Some people will do the research first and save the listings and then build the CMA. Some people will do the research within the CMA. For the sake of this class, I'm going to do it within the CMA just so we get through it. And it doesn't matter which way you do it, to be totally honest with you. So you can just kind of approach it either way. So what we're going to do when you open this page is we're going to actually click on this big green plus sign and select new CMA, right? And I'm going to name it. So I'm going to call it Evie 103 Gladstone so that I can find it. And I know it's a residential freehold property. So I'm going to just hit continue, and it's going to take me into a preloaded CMA screen.
Hey, Jen, quick question.
Yeah.
So that Geo Warehouse, I heard you say a word like land registry. Is that what it's considered?
It is.
So that's
yeah.
like when we say registering the title and everything,
Yes.
that's the main, okay.
Yeah,
Just want to keep this terminology straight.
Yeah, that's why
Okay.
I like to get my information from there, because it is the main source, and it's where everything gets updated by the lawyers and stuff as well.
For sure.
So we know
Okay.
for sure that it's accurate.
Okay,
So now
thanks.
what we're going to do here, guys, is include our, we can include a contact in our CMA. So if it's a pre-existing client or someone we have saved, we can just select their information, and it's going to auto-populate into these fields right here down below. If you don't and you're making it for someone for the first time, you just got to go through and fill this section out. You might not have all the information. You don't really need all the information. Their job title doesn't really matter. Who they work for doesn't really matter, but their phone number, their email, their names, that's if there's a spouse, who's that person. You want to fill all of this out. So let's just pretend that, I don't know, this is Chris's number, and I know his fiance's name is Caitlin. And then, I mean, again, it's up to you how much you want to fill out, but what you want to fill out is their primary address. So, 103 Gladstone Avenue. Let's say we're doing a CMA for them because they're thinking about selling. That will be their primary address. And then we're going to say Vaughn.
Jen, if someone has a spouse, we always have to put the spouse's name in there?
No, not necessarily. Like if you're only in communication with the one partner, you could just leave it out and just have it, because what this is going to do is on the main page of your report, it's going to say this court was created for, and it'll say Chris and Caitlin Bovell, 103 Gladstone Avenue. So it could just say Chris Bovell, right? It doesn't matter. It's not a legal thing. It's just whatever you want to do, however you want to approach it. If you're communicating with both parties, then yeah, ideally you put both their names in, right? Or if you
Because
know that
legally, when it's a matrimonial home, right, they both have to make the decision, right?
Yeah, so that on your paperwork and on all of that stuff in regard to the actual offer or agreement of purchase and sale, you'd have to do it there, but you don't have to do it on this. This is just a CMA, right? It's not a legal document. It's not binding or anything like that. Yeah.
So I guess to know that information, we just have to ask the client, right?
You'd have to ask the client, because keep in mind, if you're doing a CMA, it's either somebody that you're working with, so you already know both parties, or if it's somebody that you've spoken to and they've asked you to do a CMA, like on the phone or something like that, you're going to ask them those questions before you do the CMA, as well as questions about the property. How many bedrooms, square footage, lot size, have you done any upgrades? So you can get a feel for what you're doing, right? So those qualifying calls will answer a lot of these questions anyway. This is more just the process of putting it back together. Yeah, Irene, you had another question?
Yeah, so when you said choose your contacts, right? Like, is that connected to our, like, it's only if you've done a previous offer, or is it because this is all connected to something else where we have our contacts? How does that work?
It has to do with the prospect matches and property searches. So if you've added somebody in as a contact in that area in Stratus and they're getting those emails, they'll show up in your contact list.
All right.
Yeah. And then you can select over here if you want to list them as a group. So you could say these guys are sellers and you could check that off. But again, this is all not necessary stuff. You can just, you have the option to do that. As we scroll down, we're going to see an option to include a subject property in this CMA. Okay. If you know that the property has been listed on MLS previously, then include the subject property. Okay. Because that way you can get all the information and you can pull it off of MLS and it will populate it into the system. So when you're doing side-by-side comparables, you'll be able to see the subject property and then the comparables that you use. So it's really easy visually to see what you're looking at and how they compare to your subject property. If it's a home that hasn't been listed in forever, there might not be a subject property to add. So in that case, we would just say, don't include a subject property. If you're not sure, you can come here, include a subject property, and then just click on search listings. And then I'm going to say unavailable. And I'm making sure, guys, include archive listings, okay? If you don't click on that, the system only goes back 2 years. If you click on it, it goes back to like 1975. So if your house hasn't been listed since 1992, it's not going to show up if you don't click include archive listings, okay?
Okay.
And then we're going to hit continue. Okay, I was like, what happened there for a sec? And then it's going to take us out into a search area. So now notice down the bottom, this blue bar, it hasn't taken me out of the CMA. It's just removed me out to another screen so I can do my search and then I can actually select the property and return to my CMA, okay? So when you see that it comes out, don't freak out. It hasn't disappeared. You haven't been removed from it. You're just in a different section. So what we're going to do here is just a standard search like we would for any other property. We're going to say York. We're going to say Vaughan. And then I'm going to put in the actual address of the property I'm looking for. Because we specifically know. Now see up at the top here how it says 0 counts? That means that there's no matches. This house hasn't been on the MLS. So in this instance, we don't have a subject property that we can use. Okay? Now that's fine. It is what it is. We can't change it. So we're just going to go, okay, return to CMA. Wasn't there? No problem, right? The only downside to that, when we don't have a subject property to use to compare it, if you haven't been to the house, it just makes it a little bit harder to do the CMA because now all we have to work on is the geo warehouse information that we got and the information we got from the sellers, right? Hopefully, if you're doing it for a listing, you've actually already gone and seen the house though, so you could have a bit more knowledge around that. So we're just going to keep going down here and I'm going to uncheck include subject property because there isn't one. And then you're going to see that your information is going to be populated as the salesperson. You can have...
Sorry, where did you get criteria?
Pardon?
Where did you get criteria?
The criteria for what?
Yeah. Well, you just did before. Where did you find this button?
Oh, when I clicked on include a subject property and then I clicked on search listings, it allows me, it takes me out to do a search and then I fill in the information in order to do the search for the property.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So as I keep scrolling down, obviously guys, there probably isn't a second salesperson, but anybody who's in our brokerage will be listed here. So if you are working with somebody else, you could add their information as well. You can put your website, you can fill this out as much as you want to. And then this is what your cover page is going to look like. Now, please keep in mind here, if you want to get really into this, you can edit this entire page. You can put your logo on it. You can change the text. You can move the layout around. You can go to town on it. And once you're done, just save that as your default going forward and it'll always look like that. So if you have your own branding and stuff, the first time you do this, edit this page so it matches your branding and your look and then save that as your default and then you never have to do it again. So then your cover page is going to match all of your other marketing. You don't have to do that. It will look like this. If you don't, it'll say prepared for Chris and Caitlin Bovell. It'll have their address. It'll have my information and it'll have the brokerage information. Just a standard cover page, right? I don't care that much. I leave it, but I know that some people are very specific about how their stuff looks, so they might want to edit it. And then this cover letter here, guys, this is already made as well, pre-made for you. So it's got the date, it's got their information and their names, and it's got a little blurb. Thank you for the opportunity to present this market analysis. Here's what's in this package for you. I look forward to working with you in the future. And again, your information. You can edit this as much as you want also. You can change the language, you can tweak it, you can add in your recommended price if you want to. And then again, if you do make changes, just save your changes as your default. So set as default when you're done. All right?
So Jen,
Yeah.
this is automatically generated with the information that you've put in previously.
Yes.
And so it's like, it just gives us, this is good.
Yeah, it just gives it to us so we don't have to worry
Okay.
about making all this extra stuff, and it creates a little package at the end, right?
Perfect. Yep.
So you can make it look however you want or read however you want, but it auto creates it. And then the next step is actually searching for our comparable properties, right? That's really all we have left to do. We don't have much more. So we can do that from within here by clicking search listings. The other way you can do this whole process, remember I said at the beginning, there's 2 ways you can do it. The other way you can do it is by coming in and doing your search first and then saving the matches you find to your listing carts, okay? And then when you come in, you would just plug in all your information and then click add from listing cart and then select the comparables you've already chosen, and we'll just input them into the system right here, and you just keep going. So it's the same amount of time. It just depends on how you prefer to go through the process. We're going to
Sorry, if you were right where you are right now, if you were to leave this page and go to search and search listings, would you be able to go back to the CMA?
Yep.
Or do you have to start fresh?
No, because we click create new one and we named it and everything. If I click on search right now, it's going to say changes may not have been saved. Do I want to leave or not leave? I could say I don't want to leave, or yeah, I want to leave. And what I have done will be saved under this draft because it's automatically saving as a draft.
So it is drafted. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. I'm going to hit cancel, but yes, you could in theory do that. You could go out, do your search, save them to your listing carts, and then come back in and add the properties in if you wanted to do it that way. But at this point, you're already in the system. You might as well just click search listings, right? So what I'm going to look for first is my unavailables, because when you're doing a CMA, you base the value on what's been sold, right? We're not basing it on what's listed on the market, because that doesn't matter to us. People can ask whatever they want for a house. What are people paying for similar homes? That's how you get your value. So we're going to search for unavailable, and we're going to search for lease. And then I'm not going to put in a price range, but I am going to put in a date range. So I'm going to say, let's go back to February 1st. And then today is our max date. And then I want to do a new search, which means it's going to let me put in my search criteria. Okay. Down here. And then I'm going to hit continue.
So you did from 2 months. Would you usually do from 2 months?
I did February 1st to today. I'll usually start with 3 months. And then if I have to go back further, I'll go back further.
Oh yeah, I guess that would be 3 months.
I don't want to go too far back right now with the market and the shifts and everything. So going back to like January, December doesn't make a lot of sense. And then this part we fill out the way we would normally when we're searching for properties. I'm going to say York region. And I'm going to say that it's in Vaughan. Do you know the name of the community, Evie, that
Maple.
it's in? Maple.
It's in Maple.
Perfect. Thank you. And then I'm not going to put in the street name right now, but I am going to just take a look in Maple. And I'm going to see how I have sold selected right here, the SLD. That's what that means. I want to see everything that's sold between February 1st and April 23rd in Maple. And I want to make sure that I also know that it has 4 bedrooms. So I only want to look at 4-bedroom houses. And I know that it's a detached home, and I know that it's a 2-story home. So I'm going to put all of that criteria into the system because those are the matches that I want to get. Now, what's interesting about this is when I look up here at my count, there's 29 sales that match that criteria. That's a lot of comparables. So we could narrow this down a little bit more even. And I could basically say, I know that there's only 1 kitchen in that property. There's not a basement kitchen, hypothetically.
Yeah, there is.
No, I know. I'm just saying hypothetically. I didn't actually know the answer to that. But now that's gone from 29 to 26 properties, right? So now if I change this and I put 2 kitchens, now it drops down to 3, okay? But if the other kitchen's in the basement, you want to make sure you put it in kitchens plus, because that means it's below grade. So you got to keep an eye on that. What I would prefer to do is search by number of washrooms. So I'm going to say that there was 3 bathrooms. It's still 29 houses. And that didn't really work either. So that didn't really narrow it down. So then what I can do is come down here and go, okay, how do I get this number down more? Well, we know the basement is finished and it had a walkout because he put a walkout in, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to select that. Now I've gotten to 0, which means that none of the other houses had a walkout. So I'm going to take that off, but I am going to still select finished basement, and that gets me down to 22. So we're starting to narrow it down a little bit. I know it's central air. I know it's gas. I know it's forced air because it's new enough they would have all those features. And then I also know that it has an attached 2-car garage. So let's see what that does for us. That gets us down to 14 properties, right? Now it doesn't have a pool, right, Evie?
No.
Okay, so I can select none for pool. That goes from 14 to 11. Now I've removed all the properties that had a pool. And then we don't know the square footage, but if we did, we could narrow it down here. So if we had bought that report and we knew that it was 3,000 to 3,500 square feet, we could select that and we get 0 matches. So we could then try 2,500 to 3,000. So here's the thing with the approximate square feet and why I didn't go to that right away. It's because not every agent lists the square footage on the MLS listing. And if they don't list it, it won't populate and it'll skew our numbers, right? So we've got 11 matches. That's pretty decent. We can scroll through 11 comparables. So what I'm going to do now is in the top right corner, I'm going to hit submit. Okay. Everyone with me so far?
Left-hand corner, where are you?
Hey, Jen, you know what? Just because I do this when I teach at school, sometimes when you move the mouse too quick and you blink, we can't find where you are. Maybe just kind of move it around a bit, just so, not too much.
I try to wiggle it around before I click, but it's
Wiggle.
white on white. It's hard to see, right?
Yeah, sorry.
No, that's okay. I get it. I do. And I'm trying not to go too quickly, but I also want to get through everything. So basically what I did was if you come back to this screen where I was here, where we put in all of our search criteria, I just came to the top right corner where it says submit. You guys see this here?
Yeah.
And I just clicked on submit, and then that's going to show me all of the properties that match the criteria that I just put in that sold in the time frame I suggested, right? So now I can start to look at these properties and gauge, okay, how do they compare to my subject property? And I'm going to look at the first one. And in order to do that, I'm just going to click right on the listing and I'm going to take a look at it. So here's what you want to start to think about. Our property had a 45-foot frontage, right? This property has a 39-foot frontage. That's 6 feet different on the frontage. So this house is most likely going to be smaller than our subject property. We also have a corner lot. They do not, which gives us a little extra space as well, right? So that's the first thing we're looking at when we're looking at comparable properties. And then, if we know the square footage and it's listed, we can also compare it against that. The next thing we're going to do is look at the style of the house. Is it similar to what we were looking at? It's got a decent double car garage, but we had the 2 actual doors, which usually indicates a little bit bigger. And then when we, unfortunately, because we don't have the subject property listing, we didn't see our listing. But normally what you would do is go through and look at the condition of the home, the layout of the home, the style of the home, comparable to your subject property that you're working on, right? So we're just going to look at all of these pictures. Now I'm going to say hypothetically, this is a home that's smaller than the one we're doing as a comparable. Would that be fair, Evie? You've seen this house, right?
Yeah.
And is the home updated or not updated?
It is.
So this is what we would call an inferior property. It's smaller, it's not updated, it doesn't really fit what we're looking for. So I'm not going to check it off. I'm just going to go to see here, this arrow button. I'm just going to click on that and go to the next listing. So this is house number 2, okay? This one has a 29-foot frontage. We have a 45-foot frontage. That is a significant difference. However, it does look like the home has been nicely renovated. But again, it's going to be smaller than our subject property, right? So
when it's a corner lot, isn't the lot always going to be bigger?
The lot will always be slightly bigger, yeah, because you have the allowance from the curb in. But at the same time, even if it's an extra 5 feet of width that's allowed, that would still give us a 40-foot lot versus a 30-foot lot, right? So the actual buildable lot is still larger.
So when you're looking for comps, would you really take into consideration the like the actual land part or just the house part of the lot size?
Well, normally you would look at lot against lot, but when you have a corner lot versus not, you have to deduct a little from the size of the corner lot and then look at it. So for example, if you had a lot that was, 40 feet and then you have our lot that's 45, you could adjust that 5 feet from the corner of just land because we know we have that variance, right? But if it's a 30-foot lot versus a 45-foot lot, then we know that we still have a much larger lot than the other one. So we most likely have a much larger home as well, right? So this one, for example, is only 30 feet. Ours is 45. Even if we allow that 5-foot variance for the corner, we're still 40 to 30. We're still 10 feet wider frontage. That's buildable, right? Make sense?
Yep.
So this one, again, we would have to look at and go, this is an inferior property, smaller lot, smaller home, right? So we're going to keep moving on. Let's take a look at the next one. This is a 50-foot lot. I can't tell if it's a corner or not, but it might actually be a corner lot. If you're not sure, usually reading the description will answer the question because they usually put it in here. I don't see anything that references corner lots. But again, this is actually a wider house than our house. It's got an extra 5 feet on us and it's buildable. So what we're going to look at now is all the other criteria. It's the same number of bedrooms. It's a pie-shaped lot, which means it generally gets wider at the back than it is at the front. Forced air gas, doesn't have the pool, has the 2-car attached garage. And then if you've seen the property, you can compare the description, and then we're going to look at the pictures. How does it compare condition-wise? So we've got some old parquet in here. The kitchen looks like it's pretty builder grade kitchen.
How did you know right away that it was a pie-shaped lot?
It says it right here, actually. See under irregular?
Oh, okay.
Pie shape, and then it also says it in the description when I was reading it. But yeah, usually they'll list it right here if it's pie shaped, because pie shaped in a subdivision can usually get you a little extra value because you get that little extra width at the back, which means you also don't have all the neighbors coming in on top of you, so it can feel a bit more private. Depends on how the pie is structured, but usually. I just realized it totally looks like I'm drinking a beer. I'm not, I promise. So anyway, with this one, we know that it's actually quite similar in features. It is a little bit wider frontage wise, but it's dated in its condition compared to ours, right? Is that fair to say, Evie?
Yeah, because his has granite and marble throughout.
Right. So I'm going to select this as a comparable based on the size and the features of the home, but we're most likely going to consider this to be at the bottom end of our comparables because it doesn't compare in condition, but it gives us a baseline, right? And then we're going to go through the next property. Now with this one, totally different style looking house, obviously, very different feel to it. The lot is irregular again, which seems to be quite common in these areas. We've got 34 at the front, but then 42 at the back. So that's kind of weird. It does have 2 kitchens, finished basement, attached 2-car garage, 4 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, all of that sort of stuff. And it is a 42-foot wide backyard, which means, again, it's got that pie shape going on. So this one is kind of tricky. We can keep it for now because if we don't have enough comps, it will help us. But if it could also get in the way if we have too many other good comparables. But we're going to look at the condition, and it looks quite nice. It's clearly been updated. It's got newer kitchen, newer appliances, what looks like probably laminate flooring, but it could be hardwood. But we know that it's in more similar comparable condition than the other properties we've looked at. So I'm going to choose this as a comparable right now as well. And then I'm just going to go through and we're going to do the same thing for every single property. So I'm going to do this part quick just so we can move on. But basically we're looking at the same information, lot size, all that sort of stuff. And then I'm going to start looking at condition. Oof, okay. Bigger lot. nicely renovated. So, okay, good. So that's also a good one.
So Jen, when you're looking at a corner house and you're trying to find comparables, it doesn't really matter if the other house isn't a corner house.
No, not really. No, it can help. It can definitely help because it can show you if there's a discrepancy in the area between corner and non-corner. But generally speaking, because we're looking at house to house versus necessarily lot to lot, although we have to take that into consideration, it's not, we can still use normal homes for a corner CMA, and then we just have to allow for the fact that it's a corner. Some people love corner lots and they'll pay a premium for them because you get a little more land and a little more space, and some people won't buy them because they don't want the two sides of the road and the noise. So it's very dependent on the buyer. It's kind of like a pool argument. Like, it's there, we allow for it. Some people see the value, some people don't, right?
But that's what I was like trying to like differentiate between, like, so there's like perceived value and actual value, right?
Yeah.
So like, it's just like an opinion. Like, some people like corner lots and some people really don't like it and will pay less for a corner lot.
Correct. Yeah. So see this house, very, very similar in style. Also looks like it's a corner lot, right? But this is on a smaller lot than ours. But yeah, it's more of a pie lot than a corner lot. It's more perceived value. It's more based on what buyer's willing to pay. So this is why we never give an exact number. We give a range, right? So for example, if I was giving a range and I said, it's 1.2 to 1.25, when I say that, I could be in my head, I'm thinking, well, because maybe half the buyers aren't going to want to even look at your house because it's on a corner lot. So maybe you're going to get 1.21 or 1.22 because of that. Or maybe the perfect buyer who really wants a corner lot's going to show up and they're going to say there's added value there. So they're going to pay you 1.2 or 1.3. I don't know, right? And there's no way for us to gauge what that's going to look like because it's not an exact science. So you're just kind of going with your gut a little bit. So now you'll notice we're starting to get into like really high-end renovations and stuff like that. Again, Evie, I'm going to have to speak to you on this. Condition-wise, these are, I'm thinking maybe a bit more updated than
They are, because he doesn't have hardwood on the main floor or upstairs. He kept it as parquet. He only did the wrought iron.
Okay.
The wrought iron banisters.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to say going forward, we're probably going to start to see, for example, 56-foot lot and extremely renovated. We can't compare to that, right? So these are all non-comparables. And then this is a huge lot here, 106 by 200. We're not comparing to that. So once we've gone through all of the comparables, what I'm going to do is right here, see where it says list?
Right.
Top? I'm going to click on that. And then see where it says narrow right here underneath your guys' images?
Where is that?
This? See where my right under Irene. Do you see this?
When I'm trying to look, hold on.
See where it says statistics, directions, history, and then narrow?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So if I'm going to select narrow, and it's going to narrow it down to just those properties that I had selected. Okay. I'm going to take out the other ones. And then what I'm going to do is just say down the bottom here, add to comparables. So what it's going to do is add these into my CMA. Okay.
Okay.
Jen, what's that door you have like in between that earth symbol? You know what I'm talking about?
The door between the what symbol?
Sorry, that like brown.
Oh, this?
Yeah, what is
It's
that?
virtual tour. It's the virtual tour link. Yeah.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah, you can, if you go into your settings over here, you can add the thumbnails and you can add the virtual tour link and you can edit how the listings show up in your Stratus.
And Jen, to add this little star?
To add it,
Jen,
no, you have them checked off, right?
Okay.
See down here, down the bottom, where it says add to comparables in the dark blue bar?
Yes, I do.
This is how we add it into our CMA. So I've got my comps selected that I want, and I'm just going to click add to comparables, and it's going to put this now into my CMA.
Sorry, Jen, if I hit narrow, it takes me to the comparable?
Narrow will remove any of the listings that we didn't select and leave you with only the ones we did select.
Okay.
So before you add them to your comparables, you want to narrow your list so it only adds the ones that we want and not not all 11 listings, right?
Okay, so if I hit narrow,
Yeah,
removes the other,
yeah. And then at the bottom, hit add to comparables.
at the bottom, what is add to comparable? Where do you see it at the bottom?
Yeah, there's a blue bar at the bottom, a dark blue bar.
Got you.
Yeah.
Add to comparable. Got
And then once you click that, it's going to take you back into your CMA. And then
Right.
you're going to see your comparables listed here, right?
Okay.
Now we have 6 sold comparables, which is awesome. If you want, that's all we need. 6 is a great number. You don't need 10 or 20. Some people at the beginning, they get overwhelmed. They think they need to find like a massive amount of data when really we actually want less data, but really accurate data, right? Because that's going to show us
Okay.
our trends. So the goal is always 6 to 8 listings is the max you want to have. And you really ideally want to have more than 4. So 4 to 6 is kind of your sweet spot. 6 to 8 is the max you want to have. Less than 4 really doesn't give you enough data to show any sort of patterns, right? So it
Okay.
can be a little bit harder. So we're fine because we found 6. But if we went back, if we couldn't find 6 right now or we couldn't find 5, we would then go back and search further back. We would then go, okay, let's search December and January and see what else sold. And then we potentially would have to get into making adjustments from the market, right? Which is what we use Market Watch for, and we'll get to that in a second. So we have our 6 solds now. The next step here, if you want to, is we could go in and add what's currently available on the market as well and show them and say, here's your competition, right? You don't need to use availables in a CMA. They're not necessary in regards to picking or figuring out the value of the home, but they are good in knowing how much competition you have and helping with your marketing strategy and your pricing strategy. So for example, in a market like today, if I go back to search listings here and I say, okay, let's see what's available for sale. And then I just do the same search criteria in the same area, I'm going to maybe get 1 or 2 listings because our inventory is so low right now, right? But let's take a look and we can see. Again, that being said, we don't really need to do this. So there's 6 listings. So see here, it's kept all my information that I had put in already, which was great. I don't have to redo it. And it shows me there's currently 6 available. So now again, I can come up here to my top right corner and click submit. And it's going to show me the 6 listings. One of them is already sold conditional. They listed it at $8.99, so that's probably why. And then you can take a look and see, okay, there's 5 other listings that are currently on the market. So if I was listing this house, how does my home compare to these homes? Are we better? Are we worse? What's my competition look like, right? And we can take a look at the pictures and see. But that's really all we're looking at here. It's just to know what are we competing with when we go on the market, which will help us price our home. So when
Jen,
we're looking...
Could you revise where submit button is?
Yeah, it's in the top right corner. So when you do, once your criteria is put in, just up here, top right corner,
Okay, got it.
submit. Yep. Same as when you're doing any other search on MLS, right? The submit button is always in the top right corner. But we can take a look at these and go, okay, let's see, are any of these comparable to us and how do we stand up? And then it also helps us to know when we're looking at how to price the house. But that's the only reason we would use these listings, right? So I can do the same thing. I can select all by just checking this box off. And then I could just go to add to comparables down the bottom again, same as I did with the solds. And it'll add all of these properties into my CMA as well. So now I have my 6 solds and my 6 availables, and I can present that to the client, right? You'll notice it says A beside the availables and then solds, right? So we're pretty much done in regard to finding our comps. So now what we need to do is take a look at it and go, well, where's our price point? How do I know where I land value-wise, right? And the only way to do that is by looking at the sold listings and then gauging, okay, our range is 1.175 is our bottom, and 1.353 or 1.360 is our top as we speak right now. Now, usually we're going to trend either closer to the bottom or closer to the top, right? So we're not giving a range of $200,000. We've got to narrow that range down. So where does our subject property fall in comparison to these properties? Which ones is it better than? Which ones is it similar to? Which one is it worse than? And then that'll give us our top end, our ceiling, and our floor, and then that gives us our range. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is just take a look at all the comparables. So we can do that a couple of different ways. We can look at it by going through each of them here individually. So you can just click on view comparable. So we're going to see, oh, sorry, these are the availables. Hang on. Let me go to the end. So this was one of the ones that sold. So I can just click on view and I can see, okay, this one sold for 1.353. It had a pretty similar lot to me. It is nicely renovated inside. They've actually got hardwood interior. And I would arguably say this is a nicer home than me, right? So I know that I'm not going to sell for 1.353. I know I'm less than that. Okay. So now let's go to the next house and we're going to look at this one. This one sold for 1.29. Again, same criteria, similar lot size, slightly bigger than ours in lot. So they're probably a slightly bigger house. So that already makes them a little bit superior. And then I'm going to look at these pictures. And again, this has got nicer renovations than I have. So now I know I'm not better than 1.29, right? That's my new ceiling. So I'm going to close that one. And then I'm going to go back again and look at the next one. The next one sold for 1.36. I already know I'm not better than 1.29. So I'm not even going to bother. I know that's better than me. I'm going to go to this one. So you see what I'm doing here?
Yeah, you're eliminating.
Yep. This one sold for 1.175 and we know that it's very similar. It does have a slightly bigger lot. However, it's not really as updated as our home. Now you did mention though, Evie, he's got parquet on the main floor and second floor?
Yeah.
Which is what this house has, but his kitchens and all that are upgraded, right?
Yeah.
So we know that we're better than 1.75. So now our range is starting to go like this, right? 1.29 is our top. 1.175 is our bottom. So we just keep narrowing the range until we land where we fit best. So the next thing I'm going to do is go back to the next one. And I'm going to take a look at this one. Now this one sold for 1.85. Again, everything is similar. We know that already. But let's take a look inside. This is extremely dated. Super old school. We know that we're better than 1.85, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to close that one. Let's check the next one. I'm going to view this one. Now this is, like we mentioned before, totally different style. But again, we know that we're better than 1.85, but how much better are we? Because this is a nicely renovated property, right? It's got the newer kitchens. It's got the hardwood. It's got some of those extra features. So what we can do then is kind of read through the description and say, okay, what's the difference between this home and our home? Well, they don't have the walkout from the back garden for a start. They doesn't sound like they have quartz countertops in the kitchen. Separate entrance, stairs. They have the second kitchen in the basement. So these guys aren't that far off of us, with the exception that their lot is a lot smaller. They start at 34 at the front. So we have added value for land, right? So we are better than them. But what's happening now is we're starting to see that we are better, but we're not that much better than these guys. But the guy at 1.29 was significantly better than us. So what that's telling us is that we have to shift our ceiling down more because we're closer to our floor than we are to our ceiling in value. Everyone with me on that?
Okay. Can I ask you a quick question?
Mm-hmm.
At what point do we start factoring things that he has done on the outside, like a full completed deck made of tile and whatnot?
Yeah, so at this point, you have to consider that, right? So for example, this house is probably funnily enough, our best comparable in regard to condition and stuff like that, but it doesn't have the walkout, which is $20,000, right? So this is where we go back to our handy little checklist that I had made you guys, showing you how to make your adjustments. A walkout is $20,000 on any given house. So if they're at 1.185 without a walkout, then we're at 1.205 with a walkout, right?
Okay.
And then you have to also add on for things like, okay, you know, what other sort of upgrades did they do? Now, the key with this though is that it's not dollar to dollar value, right?
Right.
An upgrade, if they landscape and put $100,000 worth of landscaping, that might make them an extra 30,000. It's not going to be equal to 100,000, right? Because it's not replacement value anymore. So you have to kind of get an idea of what those numbers look like. Now the deck, a tile deck, is that what you said? What do you mean by
He
tile
actually,
deck?
he did a huge deck with the tile and, what do you
Like
call it?
ceramic tile?
Yeah, we're talking ceramic tile. I kid you not.
It's an Italian thing. They do it on their balcony too,
Well,
on the front porch.
Yeah, well, but he didn't put the ceramic tile because he didn't want to slip. So it's like, I don't know, it's like flagstone type of thing.
Okay, so is it like a patio? Like, is it on the ground or is it a deck? Like it's raised
No,
up
it's
and
like,
on
it's
the
a deck. It's like right off the kitchen walkout. It's level to the kitchen walkout, and then you have stairs going down to the left and stairs going down to the right, and you have an aluminum fence around the deck so nobody falls over.
Okay, so that's weird. But I mean, you're in the right area for it. That being said, that's going to be dependent on the aesthetic of it. How does it look? Does it look really good? Does it look really bad?
No, it looks good. I have to say, like, whatever
It
he
does
did
look good?
looks good, yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, but here's the thing, like, what's the value of a deck, right?
I don't know. It's
So you got to, I mean, maybe that's $5,000. Maybe it's 10. I don't know. And then it depends on the buyer, right? If I was buying a house that was a deck that had flagstone on it, I would just be like, this has to go. What is this? Because I wouldn't want that. So that would have zero value to me, right?
Jen,
So you might,
100%.
yeah, you might make an adjustment for the fact that the work was done, but you're only going to allow like 5 or 10 grand, which puts us at 1.210, right?
okay.
Jen, one quick question.
Pardon?
One quick question. What is a $1,000 difference?
I can't, is that you, Innocent? I can't really hear you.
This is honest.
Oh,
From
okay.
me.
I can't, your speaker is really hard to understand, Amir. I can't, it's really crackly and broken up.
Give me 1 second, please.
Yeah.
That's better?
A little. It's not great, but I can kind of make it out.
Okay. You said the basement is a $20,000 difference.
A walkout from a basement to dig it out and have the stairs like that is about, it costs about $20,000 to do that. Yeah.
Okay. So how you get this price? This thing is a 25,000. This thing is a.
You have to speak to contractors or home inspectors, or people who specialize in those fields and ask them and find out.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. We don't just guess, right? We have to have a somewhat accurate number.
Okay. One more question.
Yeah.
You said the geo warehouse system, all stuff. This is on the MLS system.
Yeah, it's all in MLS. Yep.
Okay. Some people sell it privately.
Pardon?
Some people sell his properties privately.
Yeah, I don't know when you jumped in on the class, Amir, but we've gone over all of this already.
Yeah. That was my question. I don't think so you can hear me. So that's why I'm asking you this time.
So you can find the private sales through Geo Warehouse, and this is being recorded so you can watch the video back and see how to do that, okay?
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that information is in Geo Warehouse.
Thank you. That's my question.
Okay.
Thanks. Thanks.
Okay, so where we've ended up, yeah, sorry, someone else have a
Sorry.
question?
When we're talking about evaluating stuff, like for example, a walkout, I'm on the guideline here and it says like a $500,000 house value, it would be around $5,000 walkout. And then
Yeah, but we're at a
800,000.
million, house.
Yeah.
value, right?
It would be around 20,000.
Yeah,
But when it comes to stuff like, let's say a granite top or like kitchen upgrades, and
Yeah.
you said to ask like construction people or like people who do that. But let's say the homeowner spent, I don't know, $50,000 on a new kitchen.
yeah.
But you said when it's not actual value. So
Yeah.
how would you go by valuating it?
So here's the tricky part to this entire thing with doing CMAs is that it's all relative, right? So there's no exact science and you're not going to get an exact number. What we know based on just history and standards in our industry is that a renovated kitchen is going to probably add a value of about $20,000 to your house over a non-renovated kitchen. That's what generally buyers are willing to pay more for that feature. That being said, if you have a custom home with a custom kitchen with Italian marble and all sorts of stuff and the house is worth like $2 million, then that 20,000 could potentially be 50,000, right? So it's all relative to the home and to the work that was done. And that's why when it comes to even, we talk about flipping properties a little bit and things like that. When it comes to that sort of thing, you know, we have to be conscious of how much our clients, or we advise our clients to spend. That's why we always say you want to go middle grade, right? Not the most expensive and not the cheapest, because that's going to actually get you the best return because it looks good, but it didn't cost you a crazy amount of money to get it put in. So sometimes you have owners. So, you know, for example, in my house, I live in a townhouse. It's a nice townhouse. It's been renovated. It's got some nice features, but I'm not going to go and spend $30,000 on a kitchen because I'll never get that money back, right? I might spend 10, maybe 15 to upgrade it, but that's the max I would spend because that's the most return I'm going to get on that kitchen based on the type of home that I own and the price point of the home that I own. So that's the challenge with the whole thing and why it's not an exact science. I can't give you exact numbers. That's why the comparable homes are a really good gauge, because when we find ones that have the updated kitchen like we do and have the updated floors like we do, and we see what they sold for, those are our best options for comps because we don't have to kind of figure that math out or go by a gauge that's based on averages, right?
But you like with this guideline, there's like
Yeah.
usually set numbers on like what.
Yeah,
certain
it's a
things
guideline based on industry standards, like what kind of we allow, give or take, based on the price point of the property, and then based on what we know those homes sell for in those areas where they have those extra features, right? It's like a ravine lot. A ravine lot in, you know, the city is worth a whole lot of money more than a non-ravine lot, like potentially even a couple $100,000. But a ravine lot in like Bolton, where everybody's got ample green space, is maybe worth $20,000 to $30,000, right? So there's no exact way to measure it. You just have to do the research or ask people or base it on the comparables. Those are our only options.
I see.
Yeah. I know it's unfortunate. Like I wish there was just a checklist, right, that told you add 5.
Yeah, I was literally
10.
just gonna ask you, is there like a guide for like kitchen, closet, stuff
Just
like
the
that?
one that you guys have that I've compiled based on resources from other people who've compiled it and based on averages. That's the best we can do. Your comparables are going to give you the best answer.
Like
So
for
what-
example, look, when I bought my house from the builder,
Mhm.
they said if I wanted a walkout, it would be around 15,000, which is pretty similar to what you're saying
Mhm.
for a house that was around 680.
Yep.
So, but when comparing it to other houses around the area, do we still compare it to around 15,000?
Yeah, for a walkout or something that we know is a specific cost, because it never really changes, we could apply that value because a walkout is a feature a lot of people want, right? Similar like a kitchen, saying a kitchen's 20,000, we could apply that to most homes, and that would be pretty accurate. Again, depending on the size of the home and the size of the kitchen, you got to adjust up, right? Or adjust down accordingly. So yeah, you could apply that more exact value there. But for something like landscaping or a pool or things like that, there is no exact. We don't know. It depends on what the buyers are willing to pay, which is where our comparables come into play. And we say, okay, let's only look at homes that have pools because that's going to give us the best answer of what the value of the pool is, right? Let's only look at homes that have a flagstone deck. I don't even know how you do that. But for like that kind of thing, because that's the only way to gauge the value of that feature, right? If you're, again, like if you're doing ravine lots, you only really want to compare to other homes with ravine lots because it's too hard otherwise. Alternatively, what you can do to get the data is if you can find, and this is tricky, you'd have to spend some time, if you could find a home in the area that sold that had a ravine lot, and then you find the exact same model in the exact same condition that didn't, and they sold in the same time frame, you would be able to see the difference in the value of what someone was willing to pay for a ravine versus not, and you could apply that number. But that's extremely specific and very hard to do unless
Because there's so many different variables.
Yeah, and finding the exact house in the same condition in the same time frame, that's like a needle in a haystack, right? So that's the only other way to quantify it. And then the only other option would be if it's an area that you know an agent who works there a lot and it's kind of their main area and you know them, you could ask them what they would add for that value. But again, that depends. It's all variable, right? So the thing about this is, for those of you guys that have a bit of that accuracy, that C personality going on, where you like it to be exact or you like everything to be clear and outlined, this isn't going to be fun for you because it isn't exact, right?
So we just have to do our research. Like, for example, if we're looking at a house with the stairwell being all wood and like the railings are all wood, but then the same house that's like metal. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We would have to do the research on that and how much the difference is.
Right. And that would only come into play if it was an instance where both homes, the rest of the home was fully renovated and one had wrought iron and one didn't. What's the difference in that value? If one is wood and one is wrought iron, but one's more renovated than the other, then you're not even going to bother finding the difference in value there, because you're either more similar to the one that's not renovated or you're more similar to the one that is renovated. So that $5,000-$10,000 isn't going to matter. Right? It's going to show up anyways. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to go through the house and adjust for the fact that one house has tile floors and one house has hardwood. Those aren't adjustments we do. It's like, what's the overall finish? Does it feel the same? Does it look the same? Is the vibe of the home the same, or is it not? Right? What's better? What's worse? That's really what it comes down to. So don't get over analytical about it, because it's impossible. Okay.
Same thing with wainscoting, because I know some people are doing the trims and wainscoting and whatnot.
You know, I've walked into houses that have like moisture issues and old parquet flooring and a kitchen that's like 30 years old and they have crown molding, right? Like, crown molding doesn't mean anything at that point, right? It's just there. It doesn't add anything to the house. But if you have two homes that have both been renovated and one has, you know, the extra value of the wainscoting and the crown molding, and it gives that feel of it being more updated than the other, then you're going to see a price discrepancy there, because it's adding value at that point. Sometimes renovations add value, sometimes they don't. Right? So again, what's the condition of the home? What are the comparables, and how does it apply? That's what you have to think about, right? The key to all of this is market knowledge, guys. Like, the more you're going, unfortunately, I know this is hard right now, but the more we see homes, the more we preview homes, the more we're in our neighborhoods kind of getting a feel for the different layouts, the different features, it gets easier to figure this out. It doesn't make as much sense right now because it's not tangible necessarily. It's more based on understanding what you're looking at and what features have value, what features don't. And the only way to get that is experience, right? In the meantime, you just got to keep practicing your CMAs. So that being said, going back to the CMA, we landed at about 1.210, right?
Yeah. We
know that we were not as good as the 1.29 comparable that we looked at. So what that's telling me is that we were closer to the 1.185 sale than the 1.290. So if we want to give ourselves a range of value, we might land here and say, you know what, we're probably 1.19 to 2.3, depending on what a buyer's willing to pay for our house, right? And the reason for that being is because I know if I'm listed and the guy at 1.29 is listed and we're listed at the same price, the guy at 1.29 is going to sell and I'm not. Because it's a nicer home than me. It shows nicer. It's more finished. It's more updated. And I have to allow for the difference in the upgrades. Like, they're at least 50,000 better than us, which is why I'm saying the 1.23 would be my cap, right?
Okay.
Does that make sense? So that's how you kind of come up with your range. Now we have three numbers. We know 1.185 is our bottom. We know we think our market value is around 1.210. We potentially, in a really good market, which we're not in, could get 1.23. that's probably the max we'd be able to get. So what do I list this house at? Right?
I don't
So-
know, 1.215, I don't know.
Right.
Weren't
so
you
that's,
listed like near the bottom range or mid range?
yeah.
This
Yeah, you
market?
list it near in this market, and that's exactly the answer, the key of the phrase I was looking for. What's this market? What's our market look like? We're not in a good market right now, right? We have limited showings. We have low inventory, which is great, but we also have limited showings. We've got limited buyers, and the odds are our market is going to continue to kind of decrease slowly over the next month or two from a price point perspective, as the lag of demand catches up to the market itself, right?
So
we
typically
don't,
we're in a buyer's market right now.
right now we're in what we call a transitional market. We're transitioning from a seller's market to a buyer market, which means sellers are being unrealistic about price point and buyers are being unrealistic about what they want to pay for a property. This is the worst market of all of them to be in, because nobody's agreeing on anything, right? As we continue to transition into April and then into May and then into June, odds are we will fall into a bit of a buyer's market. Yeah. How big of a drop that's going to be is undetermined. That's going to depend on how long this COVID stuff continues, but we will start to see that lag catch up from March and April for sure.
Typically when it's a buyer's market, you would price the house more on the lower end or mid range.
Yeah, typically in a buyer's market, I'm going to price the house aggressively. I'm going to price it low. And the reason for that being that we go back to our list of comparables, and I know that there's 6 currently available. That house is obviously better than me. That house looks relatively similar, but could be nicer in finishes. This one's listed at 1.279. This one's listed at 1.275, 1.49, 1.149. and $899, but this one's still conditional. So I need to be in a range where I'm underneath all of these guys in the 1.2s for sure, right? In order to attract people to my property. This one at 1.49, I mean, I'm not going to try and compete with that. They're significantly lower than me, but I'm maybe in a buyer's market, in a down market, I would maybe list it around listing 1.210 or 1.212 or something like that. I might even go 1.200, just because I know when the market's trending down, we need to be in front of it in order to sell, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the only way that we're going to sell quickly. And if we get caught chasing the market, we're never going to sell. We're just going to keep helping to sell other properties. So in a down market, I need to be more aggressive. So I need to drop my price. I'm going to go more towards that low end. In a balanced market, I'm going to go about 10,000 above market value. So if I think it's 1.210, I'm going to list it at 1.219 or 1.220, knowing that I have that 10,000 negotiation room to get the price that I want. When we're in a balanced market. When we're in an up market, I'm going to do one of two things. I'm going to list it high, like 1.29, 1.229 or something, or 235, see what I can get. I'm going to test the waters. Or I'm going to list low, but I'm going to hold back offers and create a bidding war. One of the two, right? So those are your different pricing strategies.
Is it a good technique to, when it is a buyer's market, to list it even below than what's comparable? So then you could create a bidding war?
You might not create a bidding war. You might. We are still right now seeing some homes go into multiples. But realistically speaking, what you are going to do is put your sellers in a position where they're going to meet the most desirable property, so they're more likely to sell. Because in a buyer's market, you got to remember that maybe 1 in 6, 1 in 10 houses sell. So if there's 6 other houses on the market, and then I come out in the market and I'm house number 7, maybe one of those is selling.
But
so
also
how am I the one that, how do I make myself the one that sells, right?
Yeah. Putting it into a lower bracket of like a price range will attract more buyers.
Yeah. Because
Right?
so when you list a house, you got to think about that too. You've got everyone puts in their ranges, and everyone usually puts in ranges of 50,000 or 100,000. So people either search like 450 to 550 or 450 to 600 kind of a thing, or 800 to 1.2 million or whatever that looks like. So if I want to make sure that everybody who's looking from 900 to 1.2 million see my listing, I'm going to list it at $1,199,999 because then it's going to show up in their search criteria. So
Yeah.
now I'm getting the best of both worlds versus putting it at 1.2 where people who are only searching over 1.2 are going to see the listing, right?
It's like a psychology with the numbers.
Yeah, exactly. The numbers are all psychology and it's all based on what's happening in the market. So going back to the CMA, we've kind of analyzed it and we've got a pretty good idea now of what we're worth and how we're going to price it, right? And then all we're going to do from here is go down. And so you're going to see there's this option for marketing. You can fill this out if you want. This is like what you're going to do to market the home. I don't generally do this because it's in my presentation package. And then there's also attachments if you wanted to upload other information or attach other like the survey or things like that. You could upload them here if you want to. And then this bottom section is going to say, this is what I want included in my CMA: title page, cover letter, table of contents, my side-by-side property comparisons, my comparable summary. I don't need the client full listings or any of this. I don't really need the roadmap, but I could leave it there. I can keep the market statistics. So you can go through here and check off what do you want to include and what do you not want to include. And then over here where it says order statuses, you can select what order do I want my stuff to show up in. Do I want sold, leased, and then available, or available, sold, and leased? I always do sold first because those are the ones we discuss at length. The availables are just more of a reference point after the fact, so I put them second. You can do it however you want. There's no right or wrong. And when you're done, at the very bottom here, you're just going to hit save because we're done our CMA. That's it, guys. We just did a CMA. Evie, you can tell those guys their house is worth around 1.210, give or take, right? So we're going to hit save, and that's going to just tell me my CMA is saved. And now what I can do up at the top here, I can hit preview if I want to see what it looks like. And this screen is going to pop up, and I'm going to just hit preview right here. Now this is going to show me what my CMA is going to look like before I print it or email it to my client. So I can review it, make sure I'm happy with everything. And you're going to see there's the cover page we talked about. There's the letter we talked about. Table of contents. Now here's my comparisons. We don't have a subject property, right? Because there wasn't one available. If there was, this first column would say subject property, and it would have the actual listing details, and then they would have the 4 comps on each page. For our scenario, we just have the comps. So you can go across here and they can see the lot sizes, they can see number of bedrooms, number of bathrooms, and if you've made any adjustments on the actual CMA mathematically, they'll see them down here at the bottom as well.
Okay.
And then the next page you're going to see is more of our sold comps because we had a whole bunch. And then see at the top here, it's going to say on the market. These are your available. So make sure when you're reviewing this with your client that you're clear that these are available and these are sold, right?
Okay, so he knows what the competition is.
Yeah, exactly. So you can show him here's everything currently available in your area. That's a 4-bedroom detached house with 2-car garage, right? And then here's your stats. Here's my on the market stats, the average price point, the average price, adjusted prices, when they were listed, average days on market, and here's my recently sold. So you can see
would the days on market have an effect on the price as well, though? Would you eliminate those houses that have a long period of days on market?
No, I wouldn't, because that's the reality of our market right now, that a lot of houses, it is taking a month or 2 months to sell. So that's just your normal. That's just your average. And it's taking about 36 days on average that they've either been on the market. But if you look at what's interesting, average days on market, 36. Average days on market for sold is 6. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But now if you take a look at the price point, these guys are all at a higher price range. Their adjusted price on average is 1.39, but the adjusted average sale price is 1.258. So they're off on their price by almost $100,000, right? So that just goes to show you that we were way more accurate in our evaluation of value than what some of these listings are. Right?
Well, also the on-market one has a big variable difference.
Yes.
Like the last one has a 2.4 million.
Yeah, this is going to skew things a little bit for sure. But this one also just got listed in April, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, the one on Ryder, significant difference, but it still goes to show you when we average them out, that there is a discrepancy regarding list price and sales price, and the ones that are selling are selling a lot faster than the ones that have the higher list price and still on the market and have been on the market a long time, which is telling us that these sellers are being unrealistic about their price. This is where we need to be in order to get that window and sell quickly, right? All this does is validate our price. That's all it does for us. It just tells us, yeah, we're in the right range here for sure, right?
And when you're adding like the extras to each house, are you adding it to each house, or are you adding it to the subject property?
You're adding it to each house.
Okay.
So when you're in the CMA itself, there's a section for each listing. You know where I was clicking view and we were looking at the full listing? In the bottom, there's an area for adjustments. So you can say plus 10,000 minus 5,000 as much as you want to adjust it. And it will it'll bring it to more of the price range comparable to us if you want to do those adjustments. You don't have to do those adjustments. You can do it the way I did it, where we just talk through it and it kind of explain it and it just makes sense. And you use the logic of, you know, this is better than you, this is worse than you, this is similar to you, and here's how we build our range. That's one way. The other way is to do it by the number adjustments. So
when you're sitting with a client and you're showing them all, like you have this report for them, do you talk about the added and like the stuff that's added, stuff that's missing after?
Yeah, so an extra step that I do that we haven't got to yet, this also shows you where they're located on the map, so you can kind of see the locations. And then this is all of the listings. And then here's your market stat reports for recently sold and on the market. This is just visual. Some people are visual, some people aren't. So it provides both depending on how they like to see things. And then days on market report. So you can see your solds, the stuff that is selling is actually selling quite quickly, but it's also priced a lot lower than the stuff that hasn't been selling, right? And that's it. That's the whole report. So once you're happy with it, then you can either go up here to the top right corner. You can download the report and save it and print it. You can send it to your client right from here as a PDF or email it to them. Or you can print it yourself. It doesn't matter how you do it. It's up to you. Right now, we're obviously probably emailing them and then going through and reviewing it on Zoom or something like that. The extra step that I do is when I'm doing my search and I pull my MLS listings, normally what I would do is actually print the MLS listings and I would highlight them and mark them up and I would make my notes in my handwriting on the actual listing. So I would say, you know, nicely landscaped, bigger lot, smaller lot, parquet flooring, weird deck in the backyard, has a pool, whatever those notes were. So, and then I would upload them and attach them to the CMA in that upload section so that when I'm reviewing it or presenting it to my client, A, they can see the work I've done. So they can see I put the time in, but B, they can see my notes, and then C, I don't forget the notes I made when I was doing the research. Because, you know, if I'm talking to them 2-3 days from now, I'm not going to remember everything we just discussed about all those properties, right? Whereas if I make the notes as I go, I can use them as a reference point when I'm presenting it. So that's an extra step I do. And I find it impactful because they're impressed at how much work you put into it, and they can see that you put the time into it. You didn't just print a pretty package and go, here you go, here's your stats, right?
Jen, does it really have a big bearing on the landscaping? Because she's won the Curb Appeal Award in Vaughan for I don't know how many years, because she's like an avid landscaper. Does that have
not
to do
unless
with
they've
it?
got like a waterfall and a cabana and some like crazy trees and like insane landscaping, then yeah, it'll add value. But if she just has nice gardens and it has good curb appeal, which is great, and obviously I understand a lot of money invested in that, but a buyer, it's just all that's going to do is attract more buyers. It's not going to add any necessarily, like, it might add a little bit of extra value because a buyer will be willing to pay more for the home because it looks nicer. But again, it's an arbitrary number. There's no tangible allowance to put to that. What's going to happen is you're going to get more people who are interested in your property because it looks better.
When I have to, like, do I have to research how much it would cost to do like the underground sprinklers, self-sprinkling system? Do I have to research how much the added pot lights around the house are? Like all that, we do that on our own?
No. Because remember I said before, don't get too bogged down in the details, right?
Okay.
It has pot lights, great. Like a ton of houses have pot lights. You're not going to go and be like, there's 15 pot lights in this house. It's $600 per pot light installed. So that's an extra $6,000 or $10,000 because a buyer doesn't think that way. A buyer's going to
Okay.
walk in and go, oh, this house has pot lights. That last one didn't. This house looks really good from the street. It has great curb appeal. That last one, I didn't like that. I didn't like the look of that house so much. You know, oh, the kitchen is done. It's got cork counters. It's got, you know, the banisters are the nice wrought iron banisters. That's awesome. Oh, I
Right.
really hate this parquet, but I'd rather buy this house than that house because it's got these extra features. So let's put an offer in on this one. That's what
Okay.
those items get you. They get you the offer, but they don't necessarily get you more money. Right?
Because he's asking me if it's possible to go see houses that are comparable to his so that he can do more stuff to make it look better. I'm like, I don't
Well,
know
if he
if
wants
it's
to
gonna
do
work.
more stuff to make it look better, tell him to fix the parquet. That's
That's
the
what I
first
said.
thing.
Do hard
You know what I
work,
mean?
right?
Like that's a pretty obvious one. Put in hardwood. That's a really simple fix. But so your answer to that right now is probably going to be no, because we're not out in the environment where we can just go and randomly look at a bunch of other houses and do walkthroughs and stuff. What you need to do is bring him the comparables and
Right.
go through what his home is worth and explain why it's worth what it's worth. And if he wants to add more value, give him a list of things he can do to increase the value, such as getting rid of the parquet flooring.
Right.
And if there's ceramic, but it's old ceramic or dated looking, put in a new, more modern looking tile. Renovate the bathrooms. Put in
Bathrooms have been renovated. The
Right.
tiles are pretty neutral.
Yeah, so we're not going to get into the exact house because we're on a class, but you can have that conversation with him about things he could do if he wants to upgrade it. But then you also have the question of how much money is he going to put in and how long is it going to take him to do it? And then where's the market going to be by the time he's done the work? Because it could actually cost him money. It's probably better
And
off.
he may
just-
lose out in the end, right?
Right. He's probably better off just to sell it as is and not do that, hypothetically, right? But again, these are conversations you have to be able to have with your clients. And you have to, and the only way we learn this is by these conversations, but also by experience, right? If someone came to me right now and said, you know, I want to sell, but I'm thinking about doing my kitchen and my floors and stuff first, I'd say absolutely not. Let's
Yeah.
just get you on the market, get it clean, get it like, make it look nice, but get on the market now because we're heading into a down market. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know the timeline. And realistically, you need to sell before your prices decrease. Because if you put money in and then prices drop, you've lost that money you put in. You just cost yourself profit. Doesn't make sense right now to do that because our market doesn't allow for it, right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
In a market that's going up, I would say the exact opposite. Take a month, absolutely. Fix the floors, put the more pot lights in, do this, do that, whatever. Go for it. You'll get that money back. But you don't get that in the market we're in. So that's why understanding our markets are so important, right?
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So any other questions about the CMA before we flip over to do some, I'll show you Market Watch real quick. I know it seems a bit overwhelming. It's just practice and it's just like spending time looking at listings and understanding the differences between the properties. The more you practice and do the CMAs, the easier this process gets. So what I would recommend going forward, especially right now, we have time, challenge yourself to do a CMA a week,
Okay.
right? And if you, like I said, I tell you guys all the time, if you want to send it to me, send it to me. I'll review it and I'll get back to you and I'll give you my feedback on it. But challenge yourself to do that so you get better and you understand this at a higher level. Okay?
Okay.
Cool. All right. So I'm going to flip over to Market Watch. So there's a couple of different ways you can access Market Watch. One is through Stratus and MLS, and the other is just by going to a website, trebhome.ca. All of the reports are here. Okay.
Okay.
So when you're on Market Watch, see where it says market statistics? So that was trebhome.ca for those of you that need to see that again. Okay. And then I'm going to just go to market statistics right here. And you're going to see when this loads up, there's a bunch of different reports. There's Market Watch Archive. So if you need to go back to a couple of months ago or something to see what happened in December or something, you can go to the archive. There's a commercial. There's just standard Market Watch, which is our current monthly report. There's housing market charts, there's infographics, there's the home price index, condo reports, rental reports, all sorts of stuff here. There's tons of content. If you like stats and you want stats, you could be in here for hours looking at this stuff. What we're looking at is Market Watch.
Okay,
So
the very top one?
Yeah, no.
Okay, I see it, the fourth
third
one down.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we're going to scroll down. So you're going to see here's the March stats. And this is just a blurb, an overview of what the stats kind of say. So if you
Okay.
wanted to do like a post on social media or something, you could steal this language really easily, or portions of it, or one of the stats you really like, and make a post, right? Use this content to help yourself. But here, see where it says see full report? We're going to click on that.
Yeah.
And that's going to open up the newest report.
Okay.
Okay. And you're going to see, it's going to say March 2020, and it's going to look like this basically. So there's a lot of pages to this report, and it's a little confusing to read at first, but it's actually, once you get the hang of it, it's quite simple. So what we're looking at first is, again, here's the blurb. And on this main page, we can see economic indicators, which are not looking too great right now.
Right.
Everything is on its way down, right? Which is just a reference to what's going on in the current market. And that's an indicator that our market's going to go down as well. If we look over here, you can see the average sales activity year over year. So you're going to see March 2020 versus 2019. Yes, Innocent?
How did you get to this page?
Okay, I went to treb.ca.
Okay.
And then I clicked on Market Watch. I just went through that like 2 minutes ago.
You didn't go through status?
I didn't go through Stratus because I wanted to show you guys this website, but you can go through Stratus. Yes, it takes you to the same place.
Okay. So if I go to,
Pardon?
if I go to Treb,
Yeah, if you go to treb.ca, you can go to the website, or you can go through Stratus on the homepage and go to Market Watch. It's the same difference. It takes you to the same place. Okay?
okay, thank you.
Okay. So on the right-hand side, you're going to see your year over year, where we were. And this is kind of sad for us to look at because March, we were trending so nicely. And obviously April is going to look significantly different. But you can also see right here, sales and average price by major home type. This is across the GTA, so please keep that in note. These numbers are Toronto board wide. So here's your trends for detached town, semi-year, and then your percentage change, your percentage growth. So again, as you can see in March, we were really starting to trend upwards in that growth, right? And then over here, it's going to show you listings. So what's our change year over year? How many sales did we have? How many listings came out? How many active listings? Average price? And you can see here, it's showing you, are they up or are they down? So what's interesting about this for March was that our active listings were down 31% from previous year. So that's what was causing all those bidding wars, right?
Wow.
And you can kind of learn that. And our average days on market was down 38%. And our average price days on market was down 43%. So you can kind of start to see where we were trending before COVID. April is going to be a complete flip of this. This is going to be upside down for April.
Jen, I've seen some people who already have like on their like social media, they're already advertising reports that are for April, but on Treb there's no reports.
Right, because they're getting that data from like the Bloomberg reports, and there's other statistics, like other stat programs out there that they're already promoting the April stats. So a big one going around right now is that we're down by about 69-70% in sales volume from this time in March to today. And that's coming from Bloomberg and the Business Network and things like that, where they're looking at trends. So our April stats will come out in the first week of May from Treb. So our actual exact Treb stats with all our data we'll have in the first week of May. Yeah, but there are some sources reporting data to date, like up to date data. That's where those stats are coming from. They are accurate. Yeah.
Yeah. If you were to take some of this information and put it into your own like I guess market it in your own like way.
Mhm.
How would you do that? How would you just like copy and paste it? Take
Yeah,
like
it
graphs
depends
and copy
on
and paste?
it depends on how you're doing it. You might be using like Canva or something where you're making like an image or an infographic. So you would just take the numbers and plug them in on the graphic you made. You could screenshot this if you want to. If
So
you're
Canva is like a website that you could use?
Canva is it's a program used for making like posts and things like that. So it's canva.com. It's
Okay.
free, but you can post on social media through Canva. You can create Facebook posts and Instagram posts and things like that. So you might take 2 or 3 of these stats and go, you know, obviously you're not going to do it now, but you maybe would have won year over year. Townhomes have gone up and townhome sales have gone up by 11.6%, right? And it might just be a one blast data stat that you post out there just to try and get attention or get people to ask for more information or engage in conversation, right? Alternatively, a lot of people will do this as like a monthly newsletter out to their database. So they'll have a newsletter template that they've built with a little blurb and a little kind of, hey, here's what's going on. And then they'll just pull the stats that they want to use and plug them in and then send that to their database.
So what kind of like stats would you really look at and send to your database?
So it depends on what you want to send and you know, there's lots of options. So this is just, we just got to the first page here. Like you could have looked at it in March, you might have maybe said, hey, like our average price is up from 788 to 902,000. That's a big jump, right? This is what's going on. Thinking about selling, great time to sell. Our home sales are up by 12% and our average price is up by 14% year over year, right? But these are across the GTA stats. So what you'd if you were more focused on, say, Newmarket or Aurora or something, or you have a farm area and you want to give them their specific data, then you wouldn't really use these stats. You'd come down, if you scroll down through the report, this is going to give you sales per price range, so you can kind of see what price points are selling the best and selling the worst as well, which is really helpful when you're trying to gauge who you want to market to, because you obviously, you know, if I know, like if we look at this, I can see that everything from 400 to 700 were the best selling price points. This where the most sales occurred. So if I'm going to pick a farm area or I'm going to post social media posts and stuff, I'm going to target that demographic, which is first time buyers, because they're the ones making the most moves right now, right? So that's what that data can tell us. And then if we keep going, and then this is 29th year to date. So this is just for March, and then this is year to date. So you can see if the trends are changing as well. Has it shifted at all? And then you're going to see this summary of existing home transactions. So this one says all home types. So this is every house type in every area of the Toronto Real Estate Board. So you're going to see Halton, Peel, and then Brampton, Caledonia, Mississauga, York Region, Aurora, East Gwillimbury, Georgina, King, so on and so forth. So if you have a farm area or you're kind of predominantly working in Aurora, for example, you might just come here and use these specific stats because they're Aurora specific, right? So I might come in and say, okay, well, Aurora's average price point was $1,009,000 in March. There was 181 new listings. There were 93 sales, which means that we have 2.9 months of inventory, which is a seller's market. We don't have a ton of inventory, right? We have 164 active listings. Most homes were selling for 100% of list price on average. Most homes were taking about 15 days to sell, right? So this is kind of if you want to be more specific to the actual area. And then again, it's all home types though. If we keep going down and we keep watching this top right-hand corner, you're going to see it's going to change in a minute. Now it says detached homes. So if I'm targeting specifically detached homes in Aurora, I'm going to go to this page and then I'm going to find Aurora, and here's my Aurora stats for detached homes specifically, right?
What was the other one up there?
All home types.
Oh, all home types.
Yeah, so that's condos, townhouses, semis, and detached. This is specifically detached, right? So I might be doing an infographic showing, okay, detached homes in Aurora had this many sales last month, had this many average prices, and then I might do a separate one for townhomes and a separate one for condos, and I would just come to this section under each of the appropriate titles and pull that data from there. So if
when you say infographic is by using the Canva?
Yeah, like a marketing piece, whether it's
Yeah.
an email or it's a post on social media, but just
Okay.
something that's like like photo, like people's posting, they have like the little houses and it'll say like
Yeah.
that's an infographic. Yeah.
Okay.
And
That's what I was kind of getting to. Like to make those kind of stuff,
Mm.
you would use a program like Canva.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, you can do it in Command as well, but Canva is probably easier and it's free. Command is free too. Obviously, it's just a little more tedious. I like Canva for that sort of stuff. It's really easy to work through, and you can create anything from a flyer to a postcard to an Instagram post, a Facebook
You use it for
story.
yourself?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I don't use it as much now because I'm not posting as much stuff as I was when I was more active, but we use it like in the family business. We use it all the time. Yeah. Almost all of our posts are made through that.
Because
So-
like posts like these, I see some agents posting like just this whole graph.
Yeah,
And
don't do
like,
that.
and it's just confusing even for me and for people looking at it.
No, don't do that. No one knows what they're reading if you just post the
Exactly,
whole graph, right? Like even if no one explains this to you, you're not even going to know what you're looking at, right?
100%, exactly.
Yeah, so no, you want to pull out the data that's pertinent and you want to keep it specific. So, if you want to do all of York region, you can definitely do that. That's specific enough. But, it's probably more impactful to have multiple, like, how we have multiple shots and be like detached townhouse, condo, and and have them each specifically broken down because it's going to be of more interest to people than just a broad generic, here's a stat, right? You see a lot of people actually also will just post the whole TREB stat. So they'll be like sales up 32%. And you're going like, yeah, across all of TREB, but what are they up in Milton if your database is in Milton, right? They don't care about what TREB is doing. They care about what their area is doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you keep scrolling down, you're going to see now it changes to semi-detached and so on and so forth all the way through. Attached row house, townhouse, condo townhouses, and then condo apartments, which are different. And then link homes, which are different again. And then co-op apartments. We don't have a lot of those across the GTA, but there are some. Detached condos, which is minimal as well. But it's every
What's a
single...
What's a link?
So a link property is a home. So say you have a house that above ground looks like it's a detached home. A link property, there'll be a wall. Usually it's between the garages. There'll be a wall that's joined that links the two properties together. So it's not actually a detached house. But it is very similar to a detached house, just that you have that one shared wall or that one shared piece that ties the two homes together. Sometimes it's up in the fire walls in the attics, but it's usually under the garage or under the front of the house.
So it's more of like a townhouse?
It's in between a townhouse. It's such a weird property. It's not a semi because it doesn't share any major walls. But it does share a shared link connection, whether it's in the foundation or the garage. So it's detached in essence, but because of that link, it's not the same as a detached home. So it values slightly lower. Yeah.
I see. I haven't seen much of like link properties on MLS. Like
no,
it would be categorized as link?
Yeah, it'll say link in the description. There's some in Mississauga, there's some in Pickering. There's not really many in York region. There's not really many downtown. It kind of depends on where you're going. And my understanding of it, it was that at the time when they were building them, it was to allow not to have a variance of a gap on the lot size, because if they were full detached, there'd have to be that footage on each side in before you could build. Whereas with the link, it allowed you to go right to the edge of the property line.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. That's I don't know if that's what I was told at one point. I truthfully don't know if that's actually true, but that's what I was taught. And we rarely deal with them. They don't come up very often. Yeah. But in regard to doing a CMA or something, you would have to make sure that you're only comparing other link properties, right? If you compare detached to link, and you're going to be way off, your person's going to way overpay for that house, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we keep going down, and we get all the way to the bottom. This is what we call our benchmark and index and benchmark price, okay? So again, we have all of our different areas, and then what we can see is see these different categories across the top. Composite is all the home types. Single family, detached, attached, townhouse, apartment, pretty straightforward. There's 3 categories in each. Benchmark is your price point, and year over year changes the growth year over year in the benchmark price. So for example, Aurora, the current benchmark for home value in Aurora is $890, which is up 5.2% from last year. Does that make sense? So really,
So that's the average between all types of houses.
yes. And then this is the percentage year over year that it's grown.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So if you're ever looking for that stat year over year, what have Aurora homes gone for? Well, here you go. And then you can even narrow it down more and say, okay, well, what did the detaches go up year over year? What did the towns
So this
go
is
up?
from last March till this March.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
So
there's
you
no
can-
report, something like this, that's from like last month to this month.
I don't think so. I'm just trying to remember. Sorry, and then this last page is just your historical. I don't think there's month to month other than what would be up here. So we have these stats, March to March, or that's year over year as well. The way that I've always found out month to month has been by going back and looking at the archive report from last month. Because if I go to Aurora here, and this is all home types in March, there's nothing here telling me what changed from last month to this month, right? So in order to get that stat, so sometimes when we talk about doing price adjustments for a CMA, we might pull a comparable from December and have to figure out, well, what's the value difference from December to now, right? How much did that price change? So what I would do is I would say, okay, let's pick a detached house in Aurora as an example. I'm going to say, okay, in Aurora, my detached house in March was average price 1.184, right? So I'm just going to make a note of that, 1.184. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to my TREB Market Watch, and I'm going to actually, sorry, let me move this again. I'm going to go back to the main page. So I'm just going to do this way. I'm going to go back to that main page that we were on, and then see this archive one that was here. If I click on that, that gives me all of the old reports. So now I can go, okay, 2020. Well, I want to see what the difference was from February to March. So I'm just going to click on February's report. It's going to look the exact same. I'm going to go to the same page that was on the other one. So I'm going to go to my detached homes. I'm going to go to Aurora again, and it was 1,100,425. So from February to March, the average detached home in Aurora went up by $84,000. And then I could do the math on that percentage if I wanted to as well, obviously. But that's how I would calculate that. So if I had to adjust from like December to March, I would just pull the December report from 2019 and then calculate the difference and go, okay, there was a 5% increase or a 4% increase. And then I would apply that to the listing. Right?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
One last question.
You know how you were?
Yeah,
I just wanted to know, what does the index mean again?
Sorry, the benchmark?
Yeah, right next to the benchmark, the first column that says index. Is that the amount of homes?
I believe that is. I don't usually use that number, so I'm actually not 100% sure. I only ever usually use the benchmark in the year over year. But my understanding is the index is the amount of homes that sold to generate these numbers. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other, Najim, did you have another question?
Yeah, you know how you said there was a snapshot of like the whole TREB market, like just a quick snapshot of the market? Is there a snapshot of each region, like say York region, a snapshot of York region?
So if we look at this is just your historical and your averages for previous years, so it's not there. So you mean like just a quick overview of, because this is all TREB, right?
Right.
No, there was a part in the market stats where you could actually press it and it gives you like a quick snapshot of like a graph, like a pie graph and like a bar graph. And it gives you the whole TREB market stat. But I was wondering if there was like a York region snapshot like that. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not going to lie. Is it in a
let me see if I
different
can pull it
part?
up.
Because it's not in Market Watch, right?
No, I don't think so. I'm
So
gonna try to pull it.
one of the other reports you could do would be community reports, but that's very specific to each neighborhood and it's only filled out quarterly. So that wouldn't really, maybe it's the stats infographic.
Oh, maybe this. Yeah, this.
Okay. So I believe, let's take a look, but my understanding is that's just going to take me back to that. Yeah, that's not what I want. I think this is just for Olive Treb.
It's all for trip. Okay,
Yeah, I don't think it gives you the breakdown of each area.
Oh,
I see.
It's just all Treb.
So Jen,
Yeah.
in York region, we have more sales in Macon than in Aurora, right?
Yeah, York Region would have more sales than Aurora because Aurora is a part of York Region, right?
No, what I mean is, oh, sorry, Macon, we have more sales in Macon
Yeah.
than in New Market.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, that makes sense. Markham's bigger, right? So yeah, when you're looking at the report, you can see all that information. You can compare the different areas. Like if I go to by house type and I look at number of sales, Aurora had 93, Georgina had 78, Markham had 356, Newmarket at 155, right? Which is relative to the populations as well. But yes, that's correct. Markham had more sales. Yeah.
Jen, if you on the WhatsApp group, Danielle, I believe, just posted exactly what I was talking about.
Okay.
So that's for all of Trip. That's like like Toronto, York Region, everything, right?
Yeah.
So is there something like this for just say like Newmarket or York Region in general?
No, you'd have to make it.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's what I was
they don't provide that stuff. They just do like Treb wide basically.
like something like that though. That's a very broad sense of market
It's
stats,
extremely
right?
broad. Yeah, exactly. So that's why you've got to know what you're posting, right? If you're working in a very specific area and you want to post those specific stats, you have to create that yourself. You'd have to come in here and pull the stats for that area based on what you're looking for and then create that. That's an infographic.
Exactly, yeah.
Create something
That's
like
what I
that.
was trying to get to.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't, unfortunately, it'd be cool if they did, but they don't, they do Treb wide, but they don't do specific.
Okay.
and if,
Yeah.
Jen, sorry, if we wanted to create our own, given for our particular areas, would we just punch in the community that we're making reference to?
What do you mean?
Like, you know how earlier you said you could do it by community, but it's only established quarterly, those reports?
Yeah, that's an actual report. So if I go back to where my reports are on that
Right.
first page, sorry, I got to go back a couple pages. There's a report called Community Reports. So it's right here, right? If I click on that, I can go, they don't even have 2020 up yet because they haven't updated this since February, right? But let's say
Right.
you were doing stats and it was first quarter of 2020 and you wanted to talk about what happened in Q4 of 2019, you could
Right.
click on this. And then from here, I could say, well, okay, I want to do York and I want to do Aurora. If I open this report, it's a great report. Actually, it's my favorite report. It's quarterly, so it's kind of useless, right?
Okay.
As we go through, here's a summary of everything in Aurora. Here's all the different communities. Here's all their different stats, right?
Got it.
And then it breaks it down into each one, each area, what types of homes, what the price point was, what the transactions were. So if you're at the beginning of a new quarter and the report comes out, so for example, we're just ending Q1 right now, right?
Right.
Basically. So when the Q1 report comes out, we've got a window of about a month where we could use these stats. We can't now because of COVID, but if the market had continued the way it was going, we could have used these reports for about a month and be like, here's what's been going on. And they're much more detailed, much more specific to the certain areas. However, because it's only quarterly, once you get into month 2 and month 3, these stats become irrelevant until the new quarter report comes out. So it's a very limited window of time where we can use them. If you're doing analysis over a year for somebody, then they're great, but it doesn't really help us in the grand scheme of things, right? Unfortunately.
It's too bad it's not monthly.
Yeah. The other thing you can do, I'm just going to show you guys, I know we're over time, so if you guys have to go, feel free to go. But the other thing you can do is if you do a new search in Stratus,
Okay.
and you want to know a specific area, if I go, let's say I do freehold, unavailable, freehold unavailable. And then let's say I want to know what's happened over the last month with townhouses in Aurora, hypothetically. If I just go through and do my York, Aurora, I can narrow it down by community if I wanted to specifically, but I don't have to. And then I selected, sold conditional, right? I don't care about number of bedrooms, but I want townhouses specifically. And then I put in my date range. So last update, let's say I want to know from March to today what's happened. If I now hit submit, right, it's going to populate all of the listings that fall into that category. There's 19 of them. So now if I click, see here, it says select this little box, just select all and choose all the listings. And then there's the statistics button at the top right here. If I click on that, it gives me the stats of all of those listings. So I could actually say to my clients, hey guys, in the last month in Aurora, there's been 19 townhouse listings. The average list price has been $738. The average sold price is $777. They're selling at 106% difference. Obviously, this is no longer accurate. Average is 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, and they have 11 days on market. 19 of them, 4 of them were in Aurora Grove. 1 was in Aurora Highland. 4 were in Bayview Northeast. 8 were here. And then, how many sold? 19 sold. So there were 19 sold. 15 of them were 2-story and 4 of them were 3-story. So I could pull specific stats to that community or to that pocket in a price range for a particular type and get my stats that way as well, which is another way if you want to be really narrow, if you want to be like tunnel vision about a certain pocket, this is actually the best way to do it.
And you punched in sold conditionally to get these ones?
Sold and sold conditional. I chose both.
You chose both, okay.
Yeah, but there aren't any sold conditionals. They all
Yeah,
sold.
that's what I was noticing,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. But that was because I did from the beginning of March to now. If I did the beginning of April to now, and let's try that. Like if I go revise criteria right now and I change up my dates, last update, and I say April 1st, and then we take a look. It's first of all, it's gone from 19 to 4. And then let's look at the statistics. And the price has come down about $10,000, right? It was $777. It's taking a little extra, 13 days to sell. There was only 4 sold, 1 in Aurora Grove, 2 in Bayview, Wellington. They were all 2-story houses. So you can get the stats really specific if you want to. And then you could get even narrower and say, I only want to know about, let's say, I want to know detached homes, but I only want to focus on Aurora Highlands specifically. There's only been 1 sale in Aurora Highlands since the 1st, right? So you could get really tuned in if you wanted to into those stats, which is if you want to be that specific and that narrow about your community and you want up-to-date stats, this is the best way to do that. Otherwise, if you just want month in review or year over year, Market Watch is good. So it depends on what you're looking for and how specific you want to be. Right?
Perfect.
Cool. Any other questions, guys?
I'm good.
Hopefully that was helpful.
Yeah, it was a good class.
Good.
Yeah,
I
thanks.
actually found I was playing around with the market news. So it's something called Market Watch to your inbox. And then when you click that, I just found one that shows a Market Watch for mid-April.
Where is that?
One second, I'm just going to post it to the group.
Yeah.
Market Watch to your inbox?
Yeah, if you go to Market Watch to your inbox, right now it shows from April 1 to April 17.
Okay.
So 1 second, let me just upload it.
Yeah. Is that on Stratus or on the Treb website?
It's on the Treb website.
Right.
That's cool.
I don't know about you guys, but when's dinner? This is this is good. This is good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
we did go a little long, but we kind of covered 2 topics today, right? So
That's really good.
I just uploaded it, Jen.
That was good. Thank you.
You are a
Jen,
multitasker, my friend.
Quick question.
Let me see what it is.
oh,
Thanks,
interesting.
Sanjeev.
Cool. So where did you sign up for that though? That's what I'm looking for.
Oh, I didn't sign up for it. I just went to home news and then I went to market news and then I went to market watch to your inbox and then it shows mid-April.
Wait,
So-
let her go one by one. Tell her where to click.
So in Stratus.
Okay. Okay, let me do this again. News.
So in Stratus and then new. Is that right? Or am I lost as well right now? News. Got
I
it.
went to market stats.
Okay.
Of course. Okay.
So I'd go to market stats.
Okay.
So over here.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, market watch to your inbox right here.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Cool. So if I click on that,
And then it shows mid-April.
interesting. I didn't even know that
So-
existed. That's cool.
So
But
if you
again,
were
this
to
is like
read
a
that, Jen-
general thing, right, Najim? It's not like specific to one area though, right? Again, it's just all
Yeah, I
across
was
the
just
board.
gonna ask Jen, like, how would she read that and how would?
Let me take a look. Market watch for a look at the impact of COVID on the housing market. View Treb's MLS reporting results. This is through all of Treb.
Yeah, like, would this be a good thing to post or no?
I mean, it's the reality of the market. So you could post something like this saying, here's what we're seeing across the board. The downside to the posting something like this is these numbers are so big that it's probably just going to freak people out, right?
Okay, so
Yeah.
don't show it.
Except for this one, average sale price minus 1.5%, but that's year over year, and we still have that lag. Like this is going to decline a lot more through May's numbers, right? But this right now, if you wanted to post something that had a bit of a positive spin to it, I would be posting this one saying, hey, year over year, we're only down 1.5%, still a good time to list your home, which isn't actually necessarily true, but it could be, depends on the home type and the location. This down 69% of transactions and then total new listings, I don't think I'd be promoting that right now because it's just, people are just going to go, why would I do anything? Right?
Yeah.
That's the danger with these numbers because they're going to be so big for the next month or two. All it's going to do when we're posting it, if we're not kind of just posting the more positive numbers, all it's going to do is tell people not to do anything. It's going to have the alternate impact of what we want. That doesn't mean we don't provide the content and the information, but maybe we're not, blasting it as social media posts and things like that.
Yeah.
It's good information if you're doing a mail out to your database to say, hey, here's a quick update on what's been going on in the market. These are the stats. Well, if you have any questions, let me know. I'd love to help. Da, da, da. Great content for that, but not as promotional material, no.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm just going to check the chat really quick. I saw there were a couple of comments in there. I think we answered Corey's appraisal question. And the link thing we also discussed. So yeah, I think we're good to go. Cool. Any
Yeah, I
other
think so.
questions, guys? Anything else you were curious about?
Send the link which you told me about .com or the business networking.
Sorry, what's the beginning of that? What are you asking, Amir?
The link for the Bloomberg and the business.
It's just a website. It's with Bloomberg.com, I think.
Okay, and the third one is something info graphic.
Infographics?
Yeah.
What about them?
It's the free website you told me that.
I think he's talking about Canva.
Oh, Canva. Canva.ca or canva.com is the website, and you can sign up for free and you can make your own graphics.
There is a group on Facebook as well that is called Canva for real estate agents and gives you like a lot of ideas as well. So I would suggest to join that so you have more like kind of inspiration and creativity. So when you download the application, you kind of have more ideas of what people is doing.
I did not know that. That's cool. Good tip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And right now I was like actually trying to do something, but I feel like it's really, really specific, like for those social media posts.
Yeah.
And it's like a local activity in the last 24 hours. But it's just basically three numbers. Would be like new listings, new contracts, and closings. So like if I want to find those numbers for the last 24 hours, like I'll do it the way how you just explain on search. On the MLS. Yeah,
you could, oops, sorry guys. You could search for new listings that way, and you could search sold conditionals, and you could search solds for sure, but that would be about it. And then the data is going to be a little bit skewed even if you do that, because not everyone's going to update their Stratus MLS within that 24-hour window, right?
What were you saying before, Jen? Something about you didn't, like my internet kind of cut off.
That's a good question. What was I saying? Caesar was mentioning that there's a Canva group on Facebook, Canva for Realtors. That's really good with lots of like ideas on things you can post and infographics you can make.
Okay.
Which I was saying, I didn't know that. I was saying that's actually really great advice. Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
Can I just mention, I was watching the news yesterday and they were saying how some nurses, like for a community thing, they're trying to find places to live near the hospital. So that's one way we can reach out to our community if we have any contacts.
Yeah,
that have available rooms.
That have available rooms, or even rentals, right? Like, or a basement apartment or anything like that, that they could board in for the time being. Yeah, absolutely. That's a great reason to reach out to your database. The thing with it is we just got to think differently, right? Think about what do people need right now. And guidance on what's going on the market is a big one, but it's also just a lot of tips and things people can do and support things, and what's going on in the community, what sort of support programs are happening, how can people get involved, all that sort of stuff, as well as promoting local businesses and things of that nature, which can be very impactful as well. So yeah. Cool. Well, any other questions, guys? You guys all trained out for the day?
Yeah.
I think that's all for me. Thank you so much, Jen.
Perfect. You're welcome.
Thank you.